Fellow auto detailers, welcome to the show that features interviews with today's most successful auto detailers. This is the Auto Detailing Podcast. Here's your host, Jimbo Balaam.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. I'm Jimbo, your host, and a big shout out to this week's guest, Mike Cardenas. It's his second time on the show, and he's taken the big leap, not from a different career into full-time detailing, but actually from full-time detailing into a full-time product brand owner. And that's kind of what we talk about this week. I've talked a lot about coatings on the podcast in the past. And in fact, on my YouTube channel, I recorded a video before me and Mike even got on to do this podcast. And it was kind of a prediction for the most popular detailing product of 2018. And this product that Mike has created is exactly one of those products that I talked about that I think is going to be one of the most popular detailing products for 2018 and beyond. That is a coating maintenance product. So Mike has actually been on the podcast before where he talked about his role over at Sweet Cars as the lead detailer. And this episode is a little bit different because he talks about his new adventure with Hydrosilex. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Sorry, Mike, if I got it wrong, but it doesn't have any effect on the product. The product works great. Mike sent me out a bottle, and I tried it and have really, really loved it. And I feel like this is capturing such a perfect little niche in our industry. So I actually recorded this conversation with Mike on my phone while I was in between appointments, again, trying to be kind of efficient and effective with my time. And it cut out a few times, so I'm having to kind of stitch this conversation together. Really no fault of Mike, just my phone sucks. So bear with me if it's a little rough at some spots, but overall, this is a really great episode. Mike is so eloquent with his words and just can explain stuff in a way that I have major trouble with. So Mike, if you're listening, thank you for coming back on the show to do this. I wish you all the success in 2018 and can't wait to have you on again. And for the rest of you, I hope you really enjoy this episode and keep an eye out for these coating maintenance products. I feel like they're going to be huge. Mike really does a great job explaining his product and the benefits of it. And so obviously the main focus is for Mike's product on this episode, but I'm sure there will be many other products coming. And really what I would like people to get out of it is the role that these coating maintenance products can really play in your business to increase profitability for you. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Check out my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get back into videos. It's really not natural to me, and I really struggle with it, but I know it's important. So trying to get back into that, and I'm also trying to do these daily detail tips in under a minute. So I hope you guys are enjoying those as well. Anyway, without further ado, here we go. This episode with Mike Cardenas.
2, 3, 2, 1. Well, Jimbo. Well, thanks again. It's a pleasure being back on Detailing Podcast, man. It's a lot has happened since our last conversation. So,
Sure has. I'm excited.
Yes, last time I was on your show. It was at Sweet Cars. I'd been there 7 years. You started that business. It was a new business that was being created. Its parent company had started this new business, and part of it was detailing, and started from basically ground zero. We started to build something that didn't exist in our marketplace, which was highline detailing. You were in a world of $99 details and created something that was unique, that was new to the area. And to this day, it's still holding its own and doing phenomenal things. So I'm very proud of being a part of that project. But about 4 years ago, I was approached by a gentleman out in Europe to he wanted to make a wax for me. And at that time, we were really getting to the whole coatings. And I really didn't see, it was funny, but the revelation was kind of, the first time I ever used a coating, I thought to myself, we've been waxing and we've been doing paint corrections that back then took forever to do. And then you had to educate the customer on how to maintain it so they wouldn't scratch it and swirl it, because you were just putting a wax once you were done doing all that work. And once the coatings came out, it's like, well, this changes everything, because why would I want to go back to doing waxes? And at Sweet Cars, we went full on with the coatings, and I could tell you that we were rarely waxing anything. Maybe 2-3 times a year, maybe somebody that was really headstrong on having a wax put on. But that was all, that was all we would do, was just 2 or 3 times in a year. And so when this gentleman approached me about the wax, I kind of thought, it's like, well, it's kind of going back a little bit, because for starters, the coating, I think, this industry is just going to take off. And the second thing was, I never was a big fan of putting my name on something, putting my face on a bottle or something like that.
Right.
Which makes you wonder, like, whatever comes a day you want to sell it, it's like, what, you're not.
Right.
So, I never really thought in those terms. And it's funny, a couple years back, still, had that kind of idea and seeing coatings in that. And again, a gentleman out in Europe that was able to, not really into detailing, but from that aspect, but as a chemist, is somebody that just wants to be. It's amazing who you through LinkedIn and all that stuff, who you meet, over the years. And
the internet is a powerful
and
thing. Just
challenge this guy and said, hey man, this is something that I think that we need. I'm seeing it that I personally need for me and in our business and what we're trying to do, and can it be done? And then you go through what the heck is a coating, and what is this? But it's funny, you have to. I think necessity is the mother of invention, and we cracked the code on something that is phenomenal. Which I feel is phenomenal, and basically looking at something objectively and working with it. And I'll tell you what, when you're the other side of it, when you're trying to make a product, it's totally different. So, we went through prototype testing.
You're at ground zero again.
Yeah. We went through prototypes and testing and all the things that happen when you're trying to make something. And, once we got it out, we're like, okay,
and what was your, like, those few initial conversations, what were you telling him you wanted? Because I believe it's the same individual, but first approaches you about a wax a long time ago. But then when you go back to them, what are those first initial conversations outside of like what, explaining what a coating is and what a coating does? What are you telling them you want this product to do? What is the need that you saw or that you had, really? Because it sounds like it started from you needed it. I have this need, and not necessarily that you want it, but you have it, right?
The scenario would be that, when we were first initially doing coatings, which I think would be the same for everybody, is you would coat the car, and in this glass coating that you were telling the customer, hey, now we've encased your car in this thin film of an actual hard coating, and explaining all that to them. And then the number one question I got time and time and time again, and all of us get that question that are in the coatings, is the customer is, well, what do I do now? How do I maintain it? We say, you wash your car, you do that. But at that time, there wasn't anything after that. And people would feel the surface, and then they're like, well, this isn't very slick. Because a lot of them at that time, it was just the one product. They didn't have like a sacrificial layer or anything on top of it, or a final layer. It was just kind of, this is it. Until later, a couple of years later, people were starting doing, okay, now you've got the second step that you put on it, and then it would feel slick. But even that would go away, it only lasts for so long. It's a sacrificial layer. And so trying to explain that to a customer was very difficult. You're talking to people that they're spending thousands of dollars with you, and that, you want to put them on the right path to do this right and to maintain that investment that they've just made. And there really wasn't. A lot of us, heck, we didn't even know any better. A lot of us were waxing in the beginning, putting wax over it. So we were like, yeah, put a wax on it, it just make it feel slick. Because no matter how
Right.
much you tell people not to touch their car, they're gonna touch it. That's how they kind of test.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're gonna
that's
rub
their
on it.
test of like, ooh, look how smooth it is. If I can feel it feel slick, there's
Right.
something there because I can't see it. So if I can smell it,
Exactly.
touch it, feel it, whatever, they're gonna do that. And so there wasn't that need until, fast forward about 2 years or 3 years ago, that we're like, okay, so now we're recommending an aftercare system for this customer from the coating company that we're using, or a particular coating that we're installing. This is how you would maintain it. You put this little spray. Well, how much is the little spray? It's about $60 for this size. Wow, that's pretty expensive. Yeah. And then they buy it, and then they're like, "This is pretty tricky to use. I used it once. Look, it looks all smeary. I don't want to. I don't want to mess with it. I just stopped doing it." And so then what happens is that the customer doesn't maintain the coating anymore. So customers would use this product. It would be very hard for them to use. It was tricky. For us pros, we have a little more patience and we can do a lot of that. When you're in your garage during the heat of the moment, you wash your car and the customer doesn't know how to do it. It's tough. And then they forget all the long explanation or whatever it is that you told them, do not do this. When they pick up their car, they forget it. And you have problems, right? So there wasn't anything easy. It was either tricky to use, it was very expensive, or there was stuff that we liked, but as an installer of a certain brand, you're kind of bound by that brand, right? So it was hard to use a competing brands and say, well, hey, let me sell you this product. You can use that from this brand. And then they start to think, well, maybe I should have done, why don't we use this brand? Because it's a lot easier, or I can do that, or they have the maintenance. Why can't we put this on it? And so seeing a lot of that, and you do, so many of these things, after a while, you're like, this is becoming a problem. And it's dumb. And the coating companies have had their day in the sun to make their aftercare for them, for their particular coatings, and done that. But there wasn't anybody that was independently doing that. And so that's what struck the aha moment of, why can't we make something that is independent, doesn't have a little coating, traditional coating attached to it. It's just aftercare for what's already out there now. And that the customer can use it. It's not super ridiculously expensive. It's obtainable by anyone. It can transcend any brand. So whatever brand coating they have on it, or maybe they don't have a coating because, who wants to wax their car and have wax residue and all that other stuff? And time is of the essence. People don't have time like they used to. So we would make it so they can use it as a standalone, and it would be cheap. It would be fast. They can't screw it up, and they can use it on any surface. So you can't really, if your 10-year-old kid wants to help you, sure, you want to help dad wash the, quote unquote, wax the car. It's like, well, you can coat it, and now you can spray window glass to trim. Hey, have at it, son. Spray the whole thing on the outside. Okay. And they can't screw it up, and you level it out with water, and it's going to last you for months and give you all those effects, all those instant gratifications that, it feels super slick, get all the hydrophobic effect, all those kind of cool things. And so there you have it. There, recharge.
And what issues, like in the prototype stages, just because I'm kind of fascinated by it, were there any issues where you're like, oh, whoa, this is too tacky when I spray it on, or like, were there any kind of issues in the prototype, or did really working with that chemist really help to make it a smooth working product like it is? Because I've tried it from the get.
It's I think a lot of the things in the beginning were it was just finding a happy medium of having. It is a silica dioxide based product, but then how do you put the right amount or concentration in without ruining it, right? Without, the right ratio. It's a tricky thing. And so, when you're dealing from 1 to 100, you gotta throw to where you're at and find the happy medium. Like, all right, this works, man. This is actually now the way that you can use that, and you can actually It's strong to the point where, if you want to give you some flexibility, put it in a foam cannon, put an ounce here, put in your wash bucket, put in, you can do that. Where another company, you probably couldn't take their product, use just a little bit, make a little more. It would lose the performance, where this one, no. So that was the other thing. It was just trying to find the performance where, so they couldn't screw it up, so that if the average Joe used it in the driveway and somehow kind of, this looks about enough, they couldn't screw it up. So those were the advantages, that they can't screw it up. If the average Joe is using it in their driveway, you couldn't really use it. They have to try to be a chemist themselves and try to find the ratio and whether it's enough or not good enough. We had to try to. That was the kind of the challenge, is like, take off your detailer hat for a second and think like just in layman's terms, and then the average Joe person, right? Because there has to be a product, something that will if we're ever to bridge the gap between the coating market or the coatings and something that the average consumer, the everyday consumer, can just buy or put on themselves and kind of give you that effect, but then also lead you back to the coatings. It had to be something that they could use and that was super easy. There would be no other way. And then it also had to be very flexible in the way that it was applied. Traditional ones, if you're doing one, you only use it on the paint, and then you've got something else that's for something else. Some are water-based. You can put it on everything, but then you can't put it in a different sense, or you can't put it on every coating or every surface. This can put on anything, virtually anything, and any surface. And so you can't really screw it up. If you wanted to do your car and then do your lawnmower, you can. Or what I do is put it in a foam cannon and foam cannon your whole house on the exterior, and wood, windows, plastic trim, everything, and do your whole house in a little less than an hour. And then your whole house, when it rains, it's beating, and you don't have all the water. It's insane, right? So that's kind of the flexibility. Is I tried apples for apples with other stuff, and there was always some component that wouldn't match up to recharge. And so that's why I think it's unique and special, because I do get people ask, it's like, well, how much is this, comparison to this other product that's out or whatever. And it's like, when you compare them objectively, apples to apples on every single feature, it's different,
Right.
For the manufacturers that made them, they decided to make theirs for their own stuff. And when you're not being dictated to a particular coating, man, the flexibility is tremendous.
And I feel like you hit on such a need, that gap that still exists really bad between that was a horrible sentence on my end, but that gap that exists between the consumer who would be paying for a coating and the person installing it, right? So I really feel like a product like this is really the gateway to either sell more coatings, or it sounds like you could even offer it as a standalone product instead of waxing. And for the detailer, if they choose, to sell it like that, sell it as an upgraded, I guess to the end consumer would be like an upgraded wax. But I want to say like a little bit below a consumer grade coating, but like right below it, right? So, but really fill that void of having the effects and the benefits of a coating, but explain it to a customer and even let them experience it a little bit themselves,
Sure, because it gives it the old wash and wax. We all get those calls on occasion, and then you have to then make that as the challenge of, well, I got to get them selling them the coating. Why? Well, because I probably don't even have wax in the building to begin with, because I don't do any of it, and then it doesn't give that much bang for the buck to do it. It takes so much time. By the time you wash it, bring it back out to your bay that you're going to do it inside, you're drying it, and you're putting on the wax. You got to watch out for that. You're using microfiber. You got to find applicators to put it on. You're doing all that stuff. And now you're only just doing the paint anyway. Because I don't know a whole lot of guys are really going the extra mile. Like, they're not putting on the glass. They're not putting on trim. They're not putting on the grills or the wheels or any of that stuff. So with this, from the feedback I've got from the guys that have been using it so far, is I just do the whole car. And I do it in seconds. It takes me less than a minute to do this, and it lasts longer, and they get more protection than they had previously. And if they want to keep up on it, hey, you can purchase some, and then you can do that. The thing that I looked at is because as detailers, we do a lot of promotion, we do a lot of things for companies, and we do it wholeheartedly. We do it without, sometimes we do it altruistically without expecting anything in return. What I did is, as the other approach is what we did as Hydrosilex, is that we wanted to make it also for the detailer to make money. So now we're giving the detailers the opportunity to buy at a discounted rate so they can use that wash and wax. So they can actually do that, because not all of them have a wholesale account somewhere with a large company that sells detail products. We want to make everybody, hey, if you are a detailer and you want to offer it to your customers, I will sell to you, at a discounted rate. If you wanted to become a wholesaler or a distributor, I can do that. So we want to give the detailers, all right. So we wanted to give detailers the opportunity to make money, save money on the labor of how long it takes to do a wax. So if you were to go, we have a cool video where you can see how long it takes to do a wax versus doing a Hydrosilex recharge, and it cuts the time in half, and sometimes even less than that. And so the effects are, when you compare them apples to apples, geez, the Hydrosilex recharge one is so much better than going back and doing conventionally wax, and you've got more stuff that's protected. So definitely as a standalone, it's a above shoulders of what you would get on the traditional wax or sealant, arguably. I think controversially, a lot of people argue no, they stand by the waxes and that, but let's face it, it takes too long. Even for us as detailers, you think about how long it used to us for doing a paint correction back in the day. You spend 3-4 days on a car. Now you could probably do that in half a day. And so we're always looking for ways to make things faster and quicker and better. And I think this is just another way of making something faster, quicker, and better.
And that's what I love to explain to even customers too, right? Of like, everything's in life is evolving. The phones. The similarity I like to make is like, look, you don't use the same phone, that you used in 1999. Heck, you probably didn't even have a phone in 1999. Why would the same, detailing techniques that, you used with your dad in the garage in 1970 still be the same detailing techniques used today? It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly. I think we need some innovation. There is innovation, but I think you can. I'm trying to not wheel, but I think you can make a cooler, faster, more affordable wheel. I think there's ways to improve on something, or there's a gap or a niche market of something, and it's a lot of us where detailers were working and going, hey, why can't somebody just make something that does this once and for all? Well, okay. Right. And so that's kind of a little bit our war cry of what we're trying to do. The other thing is that, it's got to be original, unique. We're trying to, it's easy to just go and relabel and resaw something, but you can't be detailers. We know, we're so geeky and so geeky in that way that it's hard to fool that. And so that's why for me, the approach is, I loved it in consumers, it's going to be for everybody, but I wanted to put it in the hands of the professionals first, because I knew that they were our hardest critics. They would be the guys that would just geek out on this stuff. And if they loved it as much as we loved it, then we knew that we've got a winner in our hands. And Mike told me everything that it was going to, really told me that it was something special. And this is the hardest one to crack. But I think after this, there's going to be several other products there's some in development right now that are really, really exciting. Awesome. That are, again, it's in the same wavelength of, oh wow, this is super cool, right? And saves on time and money, everything else, and it transcends all brands, because I think there's a lot of camps. I think the detailing world is really divided in camps of coatings, especially. And I can't tell you, Jimbo, how awesome it is to have phone calls from every single guy from all over. I'm talking all over the world that are using, some of them are using coatings I've never even heard of, right? To kind of Google it, Right. And they're using of all different kinds, and it's also bridging a gap there. It's uniting a lot of people together. But now you've got guys that are, Ceramic Pro guys or Technic guys or Optico guys or whatever brand it is. These guys are all going to be, you're starting to see a lot of that. And that's pretty neat, especially for me being a coding guy. It's really neat to see that because, we're all trying to work for a common cause. I think we all have the best intentions for our industry, our customers, and our communities as well. And if this helps that, my gosh, that's even a better thing than I even would have hoped for.
Absolutely. I think you have really struck on some gold. I really do. I'm so excited to see, where this goes and what a cool position to be in that, like you just said, you're bridging the gap, not only with professionals and consumers, but also between installers of different coating brands and all that. That's incredible.
Oh,
and
sure. I mean, it's neat because I look at Sweet Cars. So Sweet Cars is our R&D shop, and they basically will, get a customer that will buy the product, and then they'll put it on a car that they didn't coat, but they're so enamored by the features that they look at that and they're like, yeah, but mine has the coating underneath it. Hey guys, when you get a chance, I'm going to get my wife's car in there to get coated too, and then I'll just maintain the return. So now you've gained more business because you've got somebody that's sparking the, yeah, mine isn't coated in the same way. Because this doesn't offer scratch resistance. It doesn't have years of,
right.
durability. That's the number one question I get from people is like, how long does it last? Because everybody that's working with coatings is conditioned to certain parameters that they're like, oh, it's got to do this, this, and this, right? Where's the warranty? Do I get exclusivity? All these different things. And it's like, no, man, this is for everybody. The durability is indefinite because it's a maintenance product. The more you use it, this is designed so you can layer it. So you can use it as many times. The more that you use it, the better the effect.
Works.
So just maintenance is you just have to keep it going. And so the answer to that is it could be indefinite. It could be forever if you keep using it, right? My house, for example, was done, 4 months ago. It's still beating, and it's okay. That's 4 months on a house, and it takes beating. Right now,
you really did it on your whole house?
Oh yeah, this is the whole house. and so it's like you got to go bigger. Well, do it on your home.
Wow.
So I mean, my shower. I've done the showers and the bathrooms and things in the house. Because you can use this on any surface, So guys, there's a lot of coating guys that are getting into doing home solutions and stuff like that. Hey, this is great. It's great aftercare. You leave this behind with the customer and say, hey, this is how you maintain it and keep up on that coating. I did it on my shower. I've only done one application on it, and it's still beating. And that's how often you use a shower and your those kind of, and you get the soap and all that. It still beads. It's still hydrophobic, and it's been over a month easily. It's still holding up. So I mean, that's a tough nut to crack for me. It's one of those. Hey, it can last as long as, depending on the surface that you're putting it on, depending on the use, all those kind of things, right? It's been tested in their ideal situations. You could put. I mean, heck, let's just face it. You could put some on a car that never leaves the showroom or the garage. Well, how long will that last? It's not going to be the element. So everything's so subjective to really the different variables that are out there, and however you're exposing it, but we designed it so it can be layered, because the more you use it, it's not just a one and done. You have to maintain that, and for a lot of the coating companies, some of them don't have an aftercare. Or it's not that available. It's only exclusive to the installers, or they can't buy it online. This makes it easy for anybody. We can do that. And there are some companies that are coming forward right now that are saying, what, we can't really put our stamp of approval publicly on this because obviously it says coating on it. But any of our customers that want to use it, hey, we stand behind it, and we object for them to use it. So that's great. It's groundbreaking for Hydrosilex, because now you're really breaking down a lot of these barriers, and I think there's companies out there that looking for the need for something like that, and they're like, hey, we'll use that products are out there. If people want to use it, fine, because it's going to bring more business to them anyway.
Right.
People are still going to the coatings. I'm not doing little brown bottles or little little clear little bottles of product. It's different, you know.
How can people buy it? I mean, I just imagine all these people listening, you know, and they're like, I'm in, I'm sold.
Sure.
This sounds awesome. How
Yeah.
can they get their hands on a bottle or
They
multiple
can
bottles?
they can go, it's available at our website, so hydrosilex.com. Also available at detailersdomain.com. So I'll lose that.
Awesome.
It'll Detailers Domain. They've been using it. They love it. They use it on their aftercare, their washes. If you see them on Instagram, they're constantly putting it up there. And so you can buy it those two ways. There are some distributors that are smaller, but they're doing, they're set up in a different way. They're not doing online. It's more kind of a direct sale approach. But for right now, yeah, hydrosilex.com, detailersdomain.com, and then we'll see who else gets on board. It's taken off. I tell you what, the traction. It's in Europe. It's doing phenomenally well. Phenomenally well in Europe, and then here in the States, kind of released it over there. Kind of a pre deal over there. It's like, hey, let them kind of get some traction, and then here a little bit after. And I tell you what, it's taken off like wildfire. I can't believe how amazing the response has been. I'm hoping that my being being involved is not is not hindering it in any way, but I'm not going to put myself out there for something. It's such a Jimbo. It's such a tough deal when you put yourself out there for that, and if
right,
put your name, your reputation, your everything, your livelihood on the line for something, and if your gut tells you yes, and like any entrepreneurship endeavor, it comes with risk, and I knew that we had something very special, and we're now in the pursuit of making a sequel of this, but really we're trying to want to do something that's rather to have 10 awesome products than have 100 products that you're like, okay, here's another whatever that's already been done. No, it's kind of niche, unique. I think there's some things that really need to be put out there, and that's kind of the mission, the vision, to make things that are super easy that anyone can use, both professionals and the end user, and then and helping take care of the detailing community, taking care of the detailers, giving something back. I want to give something back to the community and say, hey man, give you guys the opportunity to make money on this. It's an awesome product. It's amazing. You've used it. It's if you give it to your customer, they're not going to screw up. It's super easy, and it's a win-win for everybody. I think that can be done.
I think it can be done too, and I think so often we're not willing to, we want either or, and we can't have both.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I really do see like this product is filling such a need, and it is the both. It is the both. So I'm excited to see the brand grow. I hope guys take advantage of it and use it, try it out.
Yeah,
and I'm sure they'll like it.
Yeah, if they want to visit, they get more info. It's hydrosilex.com. They can look us on Instagram. It's Hydrosilex USA. We've got a YouTube channel and also on Facebook, and then we've got a users group as well on Hydrosilex for anybody that's using it. They're using the product. They can share pictures and things like that. Definitely not the place for the armchair detailer or the keyboard warrior. So, but I mean, you see all that stuff, and I tell you what, I think you and I talked about forums on the last time I was on your show.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of of that kind of thing.
Yep.
And as you can imagine, you do get some people that are very critical, or very not the nicest people.
Opinionated.
And it's just because I think we all know everything, and it's pretty neat. The application methods. I mean, they can do dry, wet. Use a foam can, like I said about like doing my house. You can use it in marine, on aviation. I've got a couple of guys that I've done aviation projects for, and they're using it on their maintenance for their stuff after it's been coated. So we had their stuff coated a couple private jets and some helicopters and a military plane. And so, I mean, it's pretty neat to see that now they can maintain something super, super easy. But it does give them, I mean, the features, what people ask is that, it gives them the hydrophobic effect, extreme gloss. I mean, it is a noticeable gloss, that wet look, everybody goes after, UV protection, so it keeps the oxidation off that. And it's a really slick surface. And then the effects are immediate. I mean, as soon as you spray it on the surface, if you've probably seen, it beads instantly. It beads instantly. And so, I mean, you could take it and spray it into bare concrete, and it will bead. I mean, you just keep spraying it, and you'll just start seeing it bead. And it's like, well, this is ridiculous, right? So it's so many things that you can put it on. And again, it's just to make it easy on everything. I think if you just pigeonhole yourself to just one particular area that's only good on paint, well, guess what? You just do something that's only good on paint, and you only that's been there and done that for a lot of things. And I think it's time to put out a different approach to this stuff. Let's break down and make some changes and some innovation and break down some barriers. And if anybody's going to lead that, heck, I'll take it on. And
why not, right?
Well, somebody's going to have to do it, so I'll be the first. And people are going to probably shoot me down, but hey.
No, I think you're onto something. I think it's hard to be the leader sometimes, but I think you're on that way.
Yeah. Well,
you're on that way.
We're trying. Cool. All we can do is try. But thanks, for the opportunity to be on your show. It's always fun. I love enjoying it. I will tell you that when I was at SEMA, I know you guys did a really cool podcast on coatings and that. And I think one of your members kind of mentioned and touched about something like that. It's like, there needs to be and I'm like, I was just
like, I got it, but I can't say anything yet.
I had listened to that in an airport waiting on another connecting flight. And I thought to myself, and I'm sitting there thinking, I can't say anything yet, And, by then I had a couple of guys that had been working with it and testing it, and they were like, dude, this is crazy. Like, this is going to change and stuff. This is insane. And I mean, I was like, there has to be something. Because, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, how else would we get that into a house where they have that instead of waxing it? I'm not saying that waxes are dead or something like that, right? I mean, because you will have, let's say, there will be a sense of purpose of those, but I think it's going to be so small. I think you're talking in terms of, hey, if you got a really classic car that's a museum piece, that's a 1920 something, you might have to do that, or it's a nitrocellulose paint, right? And you can only put certain waxes that are on nitro. And I mean, there are some. It's going to be such a niche market. I think it's just, how do you make that transition from that was the mainstream, because people still, I'm sure they still ask you, is like, so is this a wax, or do you wax it, or it's kind of like now, they discovered claying, and then now, they'll tell you that it's like, yeah, I clay bricked it, you're like, well, you clean the paint, but then you still have to do these other things. And, the spray sealants, we saw a lot of that, and some people were taking off with that a little bit, but they don't, it's just not the same thing. So, I mean, this is going to be pretty unique in its own way, same but different.
Same but different. I'm super excited to see it, and I am at my location. So we'll end the podcast right there. I'm so excited for it. I think I'm being serious when I think you're hitting a real need. Well, and you already know that.
Oh, well, that's nothing, man. Wait till you see the new stuff that comes out. You're gonna be like, why didn't somebody? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. This was the toughest one to crack because it was going to be the most controversial, because people hold coating so dear to their heart that it is a tough market to really get into without one being ousted, I guess, so quickly and shut down, or, and in the world of resauced, relabeled stuff, and this is different, and there's got to be a different approach. And so I thought, I was like, you know what? Could I do something that's a lot simpler? Yeah, but simple never gets anybody anywhere. It's like, you just let's take on the hardest thing, and let's just deal with this coding thing. Once it gets out there, I know they'll love it. I mean, I looked at it. I mean, once it was all done, I'm like, something like tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "Hey, you idiot! Like, hey, you need to do something like this and do something with this. This is it." And man, when you start doing it and you're getting into it, it's a lot of work. It's for sure, and it never ends. Because I mean, even this morning, getting up first thing, super early because the guys in Europe are already calling you up. It's like, it's when you're in different time zones and stuff. It's different. It's different than the old sweet cars days of, hey man, you worked 8 to 5, and after 5, see you later. Done for the day. This doesn't end. Like, I mean, that guy's like on Christmas Eve, calling me, and I'm like, hey dude, I'm like trying to open presents here.
Right. You're like, it's Christmas Eve, right? They're like, yeah, who cares?
Yeah, business.
We need this answer
like that, and then so you have to be committed to it, and it's but it's different, man, when it's your own thing, and then it's different.
I know.
You just set some boundaries and some things, and it's cool, man. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I can't wait for the other products, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
But it's gonna be crazy.
Hopefully this gets a little exposure. I really just want to be one of the first to put it out there. So I appreciate you sending me some, and I appreciate, you taking the time to do this.
No, man, I appreciate you for all the support, man. I mean, it's every little bit helps, and you hope that it's been overwhelmingly positive. It's been great, man, how people come out of the woodworks. I mean, I'm talking even manufacturers of other stuff. They're like, help on like Shopify or whatever, dude. I've talked to someone. I mean, it's been insane, and it's been great.
That's awesome.
It's not like they're like, oh, you're over there, yeah, forget you. Right. It's like, no, they've been really, to me, it's like humbling and just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is great. It's like awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It's pretty neat, man. It can it definitely, for me, the heartbreak would have been someday. Maybe doing some other career,
right?
And you're out of detailing, and it's like, man, we have such a beautiful industry with great people in it that it would be heartbreaking to just walk away from that.
It would be.
And for me, I just screw it. I'm just gonna dig my heels in even harder into this and do it on the other end. I
love it. Well, this will go live in a couple weeks, but when it does, I'll shoot you a message and I'll splice it all together and make it sound all pretty.
All right. Well, if it doesn't come out, if it comes out crazy or something, let me know, man, and we'll give it another go.
Cool. No, I think it'll be fine. I'll let you know, but I think it's gonna sound great.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Man.
All right. Thanks, Mike. You got it. Talk to you later.
All right. Same here, man. See ya.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. Head on over to autodetailingpodcast.com for full show notes and links of everything that we've talked about today. And don't forget to check out our resources page for a direct link to all the products talked about not only on today's episode, but that I use in my day-to-day detail business. They have direct links so you can purchase and get free shipping right from that page. That's autodetailingpodcast.com. We'll see you on the next episode.